Good evening, how are you? It has been a while. Today we want to talk about the modern warfare. Modern warfare. As we know, ever since the World War II ended, the United States became the superpower of the world, and they are the ones who brought about the Bretton Woods institutions like the IMF, the World Bank, and also what you call it, the United Nations, which sort of like guarantees the world not to be involved in another world war. So what you will notice in times like this is that countries do not engage in open fire warfare that easily. So it's in a few instances where that really happens, like in the Russia-Ukraine war. So Russia has been the only bad actor when it comes to that front. Otherwise, nations generally do not engage in confrontation using their military a lot because of global conventions that they are assigned to. However, because of that, nations now find new ways of fighting other nations. And I want to show you that as Zimbabwe, we have been in a waging warfare with other countries, but we have not noticed it because we're not seeing soldiers opening fire. Okay, we're not seeing planes flying into the country. But I can show you that economic warfare is indeed a war. It's one avenue that countries have taken to attack other countries. And sometimes it's not just countries, sometimes it's peoples or group of peoples within a country. In the context of Zimbabwe, I'd like to show you that we have been attacked by Western countries, especially after the land grabs or land invasions of the early 2000s. That's when you saw Robert Mugabe, who from 1980 to the year 2000 was a favorite of the British and the colonial masters. But after Chanjarai holds this hope and these war veterans began farm invasions, there was a retaliation from the powers that be in the global arena, and they intended and they decided to attack Zimbabwe. But as I told you, that because of the international conventions that have been signed, treaties, and the way the place where the globe is at right now, it wasn't advisable for Britain to bring soldiers to Zimbabwe, to rescue their white farmers or to take over the country. So one way of doing it is engaging in a warfare that there is no convention that has been signed. You know, that kind of warfare involves things like corrupting the politicians or backing up corrupt politicians, engaging in money laundering. You know, as a prophet, I know God told me that the money laundering in Zimbabwe is also done by politicians in powerful countries around the world, together with our local politicians. But so that kind of warfare is an attack on the Zimbabwean people. Hear me very well. The attack is not on Idim Nangakwa or on ZANU PF or people in government. No, the attack is on the Zimbabwean citizens. It was the Zimbabwean citizens that entered into the white farms. So Britain did not like that. The Americans did not like that. To see black people in a black run government in a black Africa fighting a group of white people and winning, that was not gonna be allowed by the powers that be. So there had to be a reaction. So sanctions is part of a warfare against a people. So the sanctions will come under the guise of fighting a government, but in reality, they are not fighting the government, they are fighting the people. Because as far as the government is concerned, they are still rich, they're still making more billions, they still have their kids in USA, in Europe, they've got houses and cars, they've got a nice lifestyle. So don't tell me that sanctions are affecting them, they are not. that much affecting them. The sanctions are affecting the ordinary people. In the context of Zimbabwe, you will see that our society, which was growing and being groomed in the 80s and 90s with industries that were fully functioning, but after the land invasions, that's when we had economic attacks that came through sanctions and making sure that the country is a pariah state by giving us politicians who are corrupt and making it difficult for those that had good intentions to take over the country, because we did not see who our who our enemy is, and we did not see the weapons of our enemy. I remember one year, many years back, when I was in A level, it should have been 2002, 2003, 2003, 2004, somewhere there. I was walking from school going home, and I used to worship a lot on the way to home, because I'd walk for like for a long, and it was almost an hour walk. So I'd worship along the way. And one time when I was worshiping, God showed me something. As I was like worshiping God along the way, as I was walking in the street, I saw a spiritual vision of a tanker. You know that military tanker. That tanker was in London. I could see in the spirit. It was in London. It was pointed directed at me, as if someone in London is waging a war on me in Zimbabwe. I couldn't understand it by that time because I was in high school, and God gives me a vision of a tanker in London pointing at me in Zimbabwe. And then instead, after I saw that, I saw on the side, I saw many other military tankers, and God was there. And He says to me, I am the God of war. I never really took serious note of that because I didn't understand what it meant. So over the years, I've always asked myself, what did that mean? Finally, I've come to understand what it meant. In that year, 2002, 2003, 2004, Britain has started waging a war on Zimbabwe. Okay. So that military tanker that was pointing at me was God indicating to me, as I was worshiping God, as I was in the spirit worshiping, was indicating to me that, you see, there is Britain attacking Zimbabwe. But we didn't know. No Zimbabwean was saying that Britain is attacking Zimbabwe because we didn't know. We didn't know that their sanctions were attack on us. We didn't know that all this hyperinflation and that destroyed politics of the Zimbabwean scene, the economic malice, the fact that lots of our professionals have left the country and become slaves in other countries, and become waiters in other countries, and doing minor labor instead of being professionals in their country. It's actually a warfare. We're engaged at a war, Zimbabwe. You see, while this we are busy, ZNPF versus Triple C elections, you don't you see that even even our political landscape has been changed and or reduced into a fight between Triple C and ZNPF, between Emerson Mnangagwa and Chamisa. That is not really where the war should be at, because the creation of the polarized Zimbabwe is part of the warfare against us, so that we will keep on fighting amongst each other, thinking that a solution is gonna come when we remove Ninki and put Ninki. But the masters of this warfare have made it sure that in the political scene, Chamisa won't win. What he's gonna do is that he will always have half of the country trying to remove the other people in power who also will never be removed. As time goes, as things stand, the economic malice continues, and there's never gonna be freedom. There will never going to be any change, because change comes when the people begin to realize the real war that the global powers are waging against the Zimbabweans, not the Zimbabwean government. Okay? They might have a war against the Zimbabwean government at some point level, but the bigger war is a war against the Zimbabwean nationals by destroying their governance systems, their institutions, through their their agents, which is the people in ZANU-PF. At the moment, at this juncture, I do not want to blame ZANU-PF, but I want to blame the people that are agents of the West within ZANU-PF. And And sometimes those people, they know it, sometimes they don't even know it, that they are playing a role in enabling the Western powers of keeping Zimbabwe a pariah state. The refusal of ZANU PF to actually engage the rest of Zimbabweans in dismantling these power structures that is going through right now in the country. It means that these agents, those that know, are stabilizing the country and stealing, looting, engaged in all sorts of corruption, and unwilling to develop a country, and knowingly that they aren't developing the country, and knowing that they've got global backup from the powers that want to destroy the country. And then there are others who are just corrupt, who don't even know that they are part of a system that is used to destroy the Zimbabweans. They just don't know. They're just in it for the money. I mean, I think like people like Hubert Angels. I don't think that Hubert Angel knows what the war is going on. I think he's just corrupt. He's just a corrupt dude. Because he has been corrupt in the church. Now he's corrupt in politics. He is not part of the plan. You do have some politicians, Zimbabwean politicians, who know very well what is going on and who know their role is to keep Zimbabwe unstable. You understand? And then there's others who do not know, like Hubert Angel, who keeps Zimbabwe unstable because they think that they benefit something from it. So these are the low-hanging fruit that the powers that be can can throw under the bus through what you call it, this Al Jazeera expose. But if we were to do a real expose, more people will be exposed than what Al Jazeera was willing to expose. As I was watching that Al Jazeera thing, I noticed something. Whilst it is a welcome development in exposing the corruption in the country, but I realized that it fell short on exposing the real rot of the country, and it came out to me as some sort of like propaganda tool. You understand? Some kind of a propaganda tool to discredit part of a system which is fully rotten, but they choose a certain element to expose, so that they're trying to. I do not know what their end game is.